One Africa TV, it just gets better.
Today on One, Always There.
Today on One, your daily dose of local affairs and social media commentary.
Today on One, Tunga warns political parties to avoid inciting violence. SWAPO Windhoek West candidate to focus on youth and safer neighborhoods. Over $1 million Namibia raised in MTC homelessness cause. Athletes urged to attend anti-doping workshop. And Mel Jones encourages laughter during COVID-19.
Inspector General of the Namibian Police Force, Sebastian De Tunga, has urged all political parties, associations and independent candidates contesting in the upcoming regional council and local authority elections to avoid inciting violence during the electoral process. The Electoral Commission of Namibia held a political party liaison committee meeting in Windhoek to educate the candidates contesting in the November elections about the ECN's Code of Conduct. The Nampol Inspector General, who officiated the ceremony, said that no weapons shall be allowed at polling stations and participants should commit themselves to conduct a free and fair election as guided by the rule of law.
Parties, organizations and/or associations should ensure that their officials, candidates, members, and supporters are cautioned not to intimidate and incite any act of violence, vandalism, or public disorder. Furthermore, no weapon of any kind, including any traditional weapon, may be brought to political rallies, meetings, marches, or demonstrations. Ladies and gentlemen, the electoral environment should be kept conducive to allow all parties to compete freely. Freedom of assembly will be ensured for all candidates and the parties, and they may only be restricted under the circumstances prescribed by law and in the interests of national security, public safety, or for the protection of the rights and the freedoms of others.
One of the independent candidates in the upcoming elections from the Ana Mulenge constituency alleged that while campaigning in his constituency, the ruling party as well as traditional leaders have intimidated them.
During our campaign, we still witnessed, and I'm so happy that the Inspector General is here with us, we are still witnessing instigation and intimidation from the SWAPO, to be specific, from the SWAPO party. Thank you that the SG is here. Probably just to put an emphasis from there that you go out there and tell your people to behave in an orderly manner, because they are busy disturbing us, following us, yelling at us, and wishing insult us. Probably this is what we need to take seriously if we have to call that Libya is a democratic society. Again, there are also headmen who are busy calling non-stop, headmen and headwomen, instigating. I think it's not fair. It's not fair at all. It should be stopped immediately.
Advocate Notemba Chipwea, the chairperson of the ECN, emphasized the importance of adhering to the Code of Conduct for political parties as well as observing all the COVID-19 public health regulations. Tio Muyoro, the chief executive officer of the ECN, said that a total of 18 political parties and 13 associations have registered to contest for the upcoming elections.
for lager, Namibian like you.
SWAPO Regional Council candidate for Windhoek West, Emma Muteka, has vowed to assist the youth in her constituency with opportunities and promote safety in the suburbs. Windhoek West is one of the biggest constituencies in the city and comprises 6 suburbs with over 50,000 inhabitants. With the upcoming regional council and local authority elections, SWAPO has introduced the youthful Emma Muteka as its candidate. Muteka, a resident of the constituency for over 20 years, will replace George Trepper, who has served a single term.
This document solely and 100% emanates from the SWAPO Party manifesto. So we all know that Windhoek West is a district that has a lot of criminal activity. The crime rate is quite high here. One of the areas that we're looking at is really finding ways to combat the criminal activities that have been happening here and to really try and create a safe and conducive environment for the residents of Windhoek West. We also know that Windhoek West houses all the high learning institutions, IUM, NUST, as well as UNAM, the main campus, as well as the School of Medicine, as well as the BTC. We know very much well that the students have been having a lot of issues. One of the issues have been housing or accommodation for the students, and these are areas that we want to really focus on in terms of possibly bringing in outside stakeholders.
George Trepper said that the path to victory for Muteka is clear as there is no competition in the race at the moment. He, however, said that the constituency has developed over the past 30 years, and more so when SWAPO took over leadership in that constituency from the Popular Democratic Movement in 2002.
There was no Rhino Park, there was no Chimpapazia, there was no Rocky Crest, there was no Dorado Valley, there was no Dorado Park. These are all new suburbs in Windhoek West, which were developed by the SWAPO Party government. The challenges are different in Windhoek West than they are in any way else in the country, specifically concerning, I would say, the youth, because the higher institutions are all in Windhoek West. The youth are flooding to Windhoek West from all over the country for education. So I think we can consider Windhoek West to be the constituency of education. That is the constituency of the whole country. I'm not going into the institutions one by one. You all know the institutions are here. So for that is the reason why it's very important now for the youth to come and take charge with Windhoek West, because they are the majority of the students at the higher institution. Obviously, this is the youth.
Trepper went on to say that one of the key challenges facing regional council officers that affects their performance and delivery is financial constraints. Muteka said that she will also focus on food security through agriculture and enforce sexual and gender-based violence prevention measures.
It feels good, Coca-Cola and food, Monday to Sunday. We're all chasing taste. Let's just grab a bite and enjoy drinking Coca-Cola every single day. So we feel forever be real, together stay free whatever ends. No, we can't stop. We wanna taste the feeling. Nothing can ever bring us down. Taste the feeling.
In an effort to do away with homelessness and raise funds to assist the homeless in the country, telecommunications giant MTC on the 3rd of October held the second edition of the Knockout Project, of which it garnered over 1.1 million in funds for the cause. Chief of Human Capital and Corporate Affairs at MTC expressed satisfaction with the traction and turnout of this year's project compared to the previous one, adding that most of the revenue thereof came from endorsements from various corporates.
We had a total of 21 corporates on board. So from the 29 personalities, we had about, I think, 10, 12 personalities that were not endorsed, because the main source of revenue, especially for this year, was the 50,000 endorsements on behalf of a personality. Last year was a bit different because we had the endorsements, but we also had, I think, more than 50 VIP tables that went for 10,000 each that we could sell at the country club, which I think contributed about 20% of what we raised last year. Now this year we only had endorsements, and of course we had the 500 Namibian dollar tickets for in theatre that was literally sold out, but we could not sell them. If you look at the different companies that participated, we had Namib Mills, Namport, Nedbank, Namibre, MTN, NHE, Standard Bank with 2 personalities, Shoprite, MTC, UNFPA, Huawei with 2 personalities, Bank of Namibia, Metropolitan, actually Momentum, not Metropolitan, Bank Windhoek, Letseho, Profile Investments, Namdia, and I think I already mentioned Huawei. And then we also had other sponsors who did not necessarily endorse a personality, but they also contributed. So we had Nampower with an amount of 50,000 Namibian dollars. We had SCE, I think it's an engineering company, 20,000 Namibian dollars. Shangadi Cleaning, the 20,000 Namibian dollars. Salute Trading, 20,000 Namibian dollars. And then we had Namalwa Trading. In fact, he was busy watching the event and he texted to say, I'm pledging 10,000 Namibian dollars. We did not make much from ticket sales. I think it was about 110,400. And I think quite a bulk of these tickets came from the MTC staff that decided to buy. I think we have about 635 tickets that the MTC staff bought. Midco bought, I think, 100. Yeah, Standard Bank, GIPF. So quite a few companies decided to buy tickets in bulk. But remember, a ticket was 50,000 Namibian dollars. But the total amount there for ticket sales was 110,400. So all in all, total revenues were, firstly, the target was 1 million, not 1.5, as it was reported in some of the, because last year the amount we raised was 841,320. The total revenues were 1.1 million. I always tell my guys to write these things out so that I don't get embarrassed. So it's 1,183,340. So that was the total that we raised, 1,183,340, compared to last year's 841,320, even without ticket sales.
Ekanjo added that a call for interest will now be put out for proposals in dealing with homelessness in the country, from which organizations to be funded will be selected.
To anybody out there that has a proposal in the interest of the homeless, the sponsors will form part of the internal committee, including ourselves, and they will then receive all these proposals. And this committee, because it is their money, they will make a decision to say, we like this idea, we like that idea, and this committee will also decide to how many beneficiaries this money will go to. Last year, for instance, we had quite a number of proposals for the GBV, and we ended up sharing that 841 amongst 4 different organizations. I think each of them received about 200,000 or just in excess of 200,000 Namibian dollars. So the call for interest will go out on social media and in the newspapers. Hopefully you guys don't charge us for that, because it's a social project. It will be a very small advert, so we won't take much of your revenues. So please indulge with us when we approach you. I think it will still go out this week. And once those proposals come in, the committee will come back at an opportune time, and the chairperson of the committee will then say, this is how many proposals we've received, and therefore we are now giving this money to organization A, B, or C.
My vote is a gateway to opportunities.
My vote is a reflection of my aspiration.
My vote expresses my versatility.
If you are 18 years old and a registered voter, make the first time count.
Get to the polls on the 25th November 2020 and vote for the candidate, political party or organization of your choice in the regional council and local authority elections. Make your mark with a cross on the ballot. Do what is right and be part of the decision. Namibia votes.
The Namibia Athletes Commission announced that they will be hosting an anti-doping workshop for athletes with the aim of familiarizing athletes from all different sports with clean sports messages and educating athletes on the recent anti-doping regulations and procedures. Joining the workshop will be Kadi Kanute, a former Olympian and currently the chairperson of the Education Commission of the World Anti-Doping Association WADA. Chairperson of the Athletes Commission, Gabby Aaron, stated that Kanute will be vital in educating the young and aspiring athletes about anti-doping.
The doping process itself can be very intimidating for athletes, and as soon as you become an international athlete and you're registered with the Olympic Committee, you need to be tested regularly. That doesn't mean always in competition, at the competition. It actually also means that the doping control officers can phone you up while you're at home on a Friday evening at 8 o'clock watching TV. They will phone you, they will ask where you are, and you will have to give them your whereabouts. They will come to you then and there and they will test you. This is all part of the anti-doping regulation, even if it's out of competition. You know, these things the athlete needs to know. This is what we're going to educate them about. There's also a big difference between in-competition drugs, which you are not allowed to take, and out-of-competition drugs. So while you're allowed to maybe have a beer, you know, out of competition, obviously in competition you're not allowed to have it, but vice versa also. There are some things you're not allowed to take outside of the competition, which you need to be aware of. It's important that we do reach out to the younger athletes as well. The nice thing about Mrs. Kadi that's coming from Switzerland now is she is the chairperson of the Education Commission of WADA. So she will also be teaching us all the projects that WADA is currently busy with, the tools that they are using to educate people on the ground. And so we will for sure get a lot of tips from her, probably to go forward to see how we can include schools and younger athletes in future. To make sure that our athletes in the region have access to it, they are of course invited. We will provide transport as well as accommodation for them. And like Joan has previously mentioned, our education on the ground will happen at national championships throughout next year. So if the national championships of athletics, for example, will be in the north, then we will travel to the north to make sure we are there.
Namibia's leading doping control officer Jason Snyders, who will be a facilitator at the workshop, mentioned that athletes do not take anti-doping testing seriously, as most of them only realize the importance of testing after they have tested positive. He further urged all sport commissions and athletes to take anti-doping seriously, as it hinders an athlete's opportunities to compete internationally.
When they start with the training and when they start with the processes and with everything that they go through, doping is left to last. And only once they go through the process, then, and they get tested, sometimes they get tested a positive test, then they open their eyes, realize, and they know what's happening around them. And this is why this is a good opportunity for us to put doping first again on the map, because if an athlete inspires or aspires to become one of Namibia's top athletes, they will need to go through these tests, and they will need to know the rules and the regulations of doping as well. And I must congratulate Gabby for this, because this isn't the first time that she's doing this. So well done, Gabby, for keeping doping first on the agenda for the athletes.
Yeah, it is. It's a very important topic. I mean, if we test positive as athletes, it's not only an embarrassment to the athlete, but also an embarrassment to the whole country. So that's why it's very important to keep up to date and make sure that we know what to look out for.
The workshop is scheduled to take place on the 14th of November 2020 at the Avani Hotel in the capital. Athletes are urged to register for the workshop before or on the 10th of November 2020. Only 80 participants are allowed at the workshop, with the athletes given priority when registering.
Get some more savings, like 2 selected older boy shorts, 400, save $39.90. Or get 2 selected tees for only 100, ages 7 to 15. More summer vibes and more savings, only at Ackermans.
South African-born comedian Mel Jones will be bringing laughter to Namibia during these difficult times, as she will be taking the stage at the 2020 Tourism Expo on the 4th of November 2020. Born and raised in Cape Town, Mel Jones has always had a good sense of humor, which led to her becoming a comedian. Jones said that it is important to laugh, especially now that the world has been hit by the COVID-19 pandemic.
It's always important to laugh, but I think especially over the last 6 or 7 months, people haven't had a lot to laugh about. There's been a lot of seriousness, there's been a lot of tragedies, there's been a lot of just people struggling with daily things, and it may not have been a big struggle, it may not have been someone who's lost their job, because there have been those big struggles, but some of the struggles were small and internal, and some of the struggles were in our heads. You know, some days it was just difficult to get out of bed because the routine changed so quickly and so drastically, and we were living our lives online, and so suddenly it felt like we were being scrutinized on social media a lot more, because a lot of people were there. And so there were a lot of difficult things to adjust to and to deal with, and I think that now more than ever it's more important to focus on the lighter side of life, because I believe in gratitude, I believe in looking at the silver lining on the cloud, because it's so easy to get caught up in the negative and spiral downwards, but we must remember that there are also things to be grateful for. There are also things that every single thing that has a negative vibe, there has to be a sort of positive spin on it.
Jones added that the tourism industry has struggled, and it's time for industries to join hands and save multiple livelihoods.
The tourism industry on its own has struggled. The entertainment industry on its own has struggled. So I think it's a nice marriage for us to kind of be able to help uplift each other. And I know that with tourism, and especially in places like Namibia, where there's so many beautiful sights to see, and people didn't get to see that. And I know that there are a lot of plans that were cancelled and flights that were cancelled and holidays that were cancelled. So now to kind of just remind people that this still exists, and to just kind of get a bit of an excitement going, because there is still this happening, and there's still time. People have been in a very weird situation for the past 6 or 7 months, so in order for them to get, I think for them to get out and have a holiday is probably just as important for the tourism industry to start receiving people again. So I think it's a mutual thing. As much as tourism wants to receive people again, I think people are tired of being at home. They want to get out again and experience things. So it's a good reminder to go like, hey guys, remember, we're still here. Africa's a beautiful place. So very excited about initiatives like this.
She urges the Namibian nation to stay positive during the COVID-19 period and enjoy the lighter side of life.
Imagine opening your Nedbank account anywhere, anytime by simply taking a selfie. Introducing Identity Today, a platform which enables you to open your Nedbank account, scan the Nedbank QR code with your smartphone camera, and immediately follow the instructions on the link that will open up in your web browser. Follow the simple steps to complete the account opening online form. Have your identity card or passport ready. Take a selfie and send it to us, and your new Nedbank account will be opened and confirmed in 3 minutes or less. Visit www.nedbank.com.na to shift your account to Nedbank today. Nedbank. See money differently.
In other leading stories, the Bank of Namibia donated an amount of 480,000 Namibia dollars to the Save the Rhino Trust Namibia. The funds are proceeds of an auction of a few pieces of the new 30 Namibia dollars commemorative banknotes to international collectors for the purpose of raising funds towards anti-poaching activities. The 30 Namibia dollars commemorative banknote was officially launched on the 21st of March 2020 by His Excellency Dr. Hage Geingob, President of the Republic of Namibia, and was released into circulation as a legal tender on the 15th of May 2020. A distinctive feature of the banknote is the black rhino depicted in a see-through window on the reverse of the banknote. The black rhino faces extinction as one of the world's most endangered species. Therefore, its incorporation of the 30 Namibia dollars commemorative banknote is in support of the country's campaign to end rhino poaching and demonstrates Namibia's commitment to natural resource management. The anti-rhino poaching message has been well received locally and internationally, making the banknote a highly regarded collector's item, especially because it is a once-off print in limited quantities. The bank's auction was successful and generated funds to be channeled to the promotion of the sustainable use of natural resources for the benefit of Namibians and the economy. The donation is earmarked to cover specific needs identified and agreed upon between the bank and the Save the Rhino Trust, such as, amongst others, providing monetary incentives to rangers, meals and fuel for support vehicles for trackers on patrol, as well as field trips to regional and traditional authorities to raise awareness on the importance of black rhino conservation.
Welcome to Comments Corner, your daily dose of comments from the hottest social media pages.
Students from across Namibia say that they have had enough with the Namibia Students Financial Assistance Fund's insufficient funding of tuition and non-tuition fees for the past years. The students had a nationwide demonstration and handed over petitions to NASFAF, Ministry of Higher Education, Training and Innovation, and the Ministry of Finance. Paula said we should be careful and not mislead others. He also asked whether the students understand what shut all down means. Saki said this is very much true. Dawia said perhaps it is time for yet another demonstration on the 10th of November for unpaid fees. Two young women have graduated as their first Dreams ambassadors in Namibia for the U.S. government's funded Dreams program. The Dreams program supports adolescent girls and young women between 10 and 24 years of age, as well as their parents or caregivers and sexual partners, to prevent new HIV infections through education in reproductive health, prevention of gender-based violence, and entrepreneurship support. Nampala thanked the Dreams program for the support. Rosalia congratulated all the girls. Azaria said, join the ruling party for opportunities, or else join those that are already on the streets.
And that's all from Comments Corner. Be sure to post your comments on our social media pages for Broadcast Every day, only on Today on 1.
I don't think it will rain. Let's hope not.
I'm in the farm.
Just like this. Yeah.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to